Okay, hello everyone. Thank you for joining us and welcome to the Stellar Development Foundation's Q4 2022 quarter in review. I'm Carolyn Yee. I am Communications Manager at SDF, and we've got a lot to cover as is usual with these Q4 webinars because we are going to take you through our quarterly updates as well as our 2022 highlights. And we're also going to share SDF's new roadmap for 2023. So first, CEO and Executive Director Denelle Dixon will recap some noteworthy highlights from 2022. Then we'll have Justin Rice, VP of Ecosystem, go over network stats for the quarter and touch on what we're doing to increase scalability and network innovation. Then Denelle and Jordan Edelstein, CMO, will review what we did to activate more network participation this quarter. And Jordan will also review our progress on the building block of demanding and promoting inclusion. And then finally, Denelle will be back to introduce our 2023 roadmap, which will be the new structure to guide these quarterly calls in the future. So as always, we'll make time at the end for audience Q&A. So please be sure to submit your questions throughout the call using the Q&A tab in Zoom. And just to note that the earlier you get your questions in, the more likely we'll be able to get to them. So with that, I will turn it over to Denelle.
Thank you so much. Hello, everyone. Apologize for my voice. I'm a little sick, so hopefully we're going to get through this with my voice intact. Thank you for being here with us today. I'll kick us off by sharing just a few of the highlights from a very eventful year for the Stellar ecosystem. Our work in 2022 resonated in a really, really meaningful way. We continue to advance and support real-world use cases through the innovation that the Stellar blockchain enables. The Enterprise Fund invested over $26 million with the objective of diversifying our reach and growing the Stellar ecosystem, including $3.25 million dedicated to accelerators that are focused on startups building in key markets such as Africa and in Latin America. MoneyGram Access launched in June, a first of its kind global on and off ramp service for digital wallets to increase the utility of digital assets. We said all along that the power of cash on and off ramps would be a game changer. And that was proven when in December this year, we launched Stellar Aid Assist, a new disbursement system built on the Stellar blockchain that enables the delivery of urgently needed cash assistance to vulnerable populations. In its first implementation, it is being piloted by two different aid organizations, the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees and the International Rescue Committee, to deliver cash assistance to internally displaced persons in Ukraine. Last January, we announced that native smart contracts were coming to Stellar. That kicked off Project Jump Cannon, and now Soroban, a new smart contract standard, is live on FutureNet with mainnet launch planned for this year. I'm so proud of our team for getting us to this point. We can't understate the importance of this new innovation and what it will mean for the ecosystem. And finally, noteworthy progress on something that has been foundational to Stellar since the beginning, anchors. They continue to serve as the backbone of the Stellar network, further expanding the reach of digital assets across the globe. Not only did the number of anchors on Stellar double in 2022 from 30 to 60, but it's now easier than ever to become an anchor. More on that a bit later. But next, a reminder of our 2022 roadmap. So our current roadmap is made up of three strategic building blocks. First, we're focused on increasing network scalability and network innovation. Second, we're focused on activating more network participation. And finally, we're demanding and promoting diversity inclusion throughout the ecosystem as well as at the SDF. Taken together, these building blocks help us on our way to creating equitable access to the global financial system. So first, I'll hand it over to Justin to walk us through building block one, what we've done this quarter to increase scalability and network innovation.
Thank you, Denelle. Hi, everyone. I'm Justin Rice, VP of Ecosystem, and I'm here to recap what we've done this quarter and in 2022 to increase scalability and network innovation. So to kick off, we're going to take a look at some key network stats. First, let's look at network activity and growth. So the initial metric is total accounts. In Q4, total accounts surpassed 7.4 million, which is up 14% year over year. Second metric, total number of payments. In Q4, there were 44.2 million payments compared to 72 million in the same quarter last year. So that's a decrease of 39%. And, I think that's in line with the general broader market downturn. But raw network activity, let's take a look at that because it's kind of interesting. This is the total operations processed, and operations on Stellar. These are any functions that change the ledger state. So this includes payments, but also things like buy and sell orders and deposits into AMMs. And we could see that the network processed over 1 billion operations, billion with a B, in Q4 2022 alone, which was a 63% year-over-year increase. So there was a decrease in payments, but an increase in network usage overall. Next, let's look at how these accounts and payments are driving volume on Stellar's decentralized exchange. The average daily DEX volume this quarter was about 13 million lumens worth per day, which is a decrease from Q4 of last year when the average daily DEX volume was about 126 million lumens worth per day. Again, this decrease, it kind of tracks with the broader market downturn. And finally, how about AMM activity? So as a reminder, AMMs enable a more accessible and inclusive liquidity provisioning process. In Q4, there were over 10,000 unique pool providers and over 6,000 liquidity providers with approximately $39.7 million in total value locked. Next, we're going to look at metrics around something that we call relevant assets. So we define relevant assets as assets that are tethered to real financial instruments. So think fiat currencies like Mexican pesos, US dollars, that kind of thing. Tracking these assets, it gives us a good indication of how well Stellar is actually connecting global financial systems. So in Q4, the total number of relevant assets that we track decreased, right? We now have 79 distinct assets on our list. Why the decrease? As I shared last quarter, we actually strengthened the criteria around what we count as relevant asset. Those are criteria that we're always examining and looking to improve. So, we sort of can winnow the list periodically. But despite that smaller list, the on-network transaction volume of relevant assets actually grew by 11% year over year. So fewer assets tracked due to updated criteria, but more transaction volume. The last set of metrics measure the decentralization of the network. Decentralization plays a critical role in the health and success of the network. And so we continue to monitor the number of nodes and the average ledger close times to see how the network is holding up. So first, we'll look at the number of tier 1 validator nodes. So these are the nodes that are run by organizations that have gained a high level of network trust and that are essential to network health and resilience. Currently, the network has 23 tier 1 validator nodes, and this quarter, a new prestigious organization joined the ranks, Franklin Templeton, which is a global leader in asset management with more than 7 decades of experience, who also issues a US government money fund on Stellar. So it's very exciting to see them representing with such a high level of network participation. Outside of that tier 1 group, the total network nodes has increased to 182. And ledgers continue to close in a little over 5 seconds. So the network clicked along with the same consistency and speed and reliability, even with an increase in the overall number of operations. So that's what things look like when we compare Q4 2023 to Q4 2022 to Q4 2021. But since this is our last quarterly call of 2022, I actually think it's worth stepping back for a minute to look at the year as a whole compared to 2021. So network growth over the course of the year, which was, a tough year for the industry that was marked by a significant market downturn and the advent of crypto winter. Network growth over the course of the year was actually quite remarkable. Last year, we celebrated that Stellar hit 1 billion operations in 2 quarters. This year, Stellar hit nearly 1 billion operations in 1 quarter alone. And there were a total of 3.6 billion operations over the course of the year. Total payments went from 125 million in 2021 to 345 million in 2022. So that's an increase overall of 176%. And we hit more than 7 million accounts on the network, another huge milestone. So this growth, it's proof that people are finding real world utility with Stellar, and they're gaining more access to financial inclusion across the globe. And that utility, it really sets Stellar apart from many other blockchain networks. And it's something we as an organization and as an ecosystem, we've always been focused on it. And it's something we'll continue to focus on. It's important to build useful things. Now, in addition to that overall growth of network usage, this year has also been remarkable in terms of the growth of network capabilities. So this was a big time year for enabling trust minimized innovation, which was one of SDF's building blocks for this year. So trust minimized innovation. What do I mean by that? Let's talk Soroban. Soroban is a smart contracts platform that's designed to work well with Stellar and that shares the network style and sensibilities, right? It's batteries included and built to scale, and it connects to Stellar's on and off ramp. So when it launches, it will allow unparalleled access to the world of DeFi and to the novel Soroban-based financial products and services that the ecosystem is already beginning to build, right? By taking advantage of the new surface area for innovation that Soroban provides, developers will be able to build smart contract protocols and dApps that are both kind of the moment, state of the art, next big thing, and that connect to traditional Rails so that they can solve real world problems. Soroban has been a top priority for SDF since we started working on it. And even though it's a massive, massive project, way bigger in terms of engineering than anything we've tackled short of the creation of the network, it's moved incredibly quickly. And Q4 was big for Soroban. So we went from 0 to the FutureNet launch in a matter of months. FutureNet, by the way, is a public dev environment that allows early Soroban adapters to deploy live contracts so they can get to building. So since the FutureNet launch in early Q4, there have been 3 more major preview releases, each of which moved the project farther down the field. Now, Soroban is an entire tech stack, so each of those releases involve changes to the XDR, the Soroban environment, the Soroban interface, Stellar Core, the Rust SDK, the Soroban CLI, the Soroban RPC, Horizon, and Quick Start. That's a lot of work, a lot of different repositories, a lot of coordination, and it's been really inspiring to see how many people have been involved and how much they've achieved. Now, Soroban is still in preview releases, and we've encouraged the ecosystem to experiment and to give feedback and to join in on its development, in part through some developer incentive programs that I'm going to talk about in a minute. But that feedback, it's really helping to shape key design decisions as we close in on production-ready code. Here's an example and a notable achievement from Q4. So we built interoperability with classic assets issued on Stellar. Now, there were a ton of question marks around how to make assets that are issued on Stellar compatible with Soroban and around what compatibility even means. But after a bunch of in-depth discussion and some strong decision-making and a ton of work, we ended up with a standard Stellar asset contract, which allows users to make use of their Stellar account and trust line balances in Soroban. Now, that might not sound big, but it is, right? This quarter, we defined the very interface between the existing Stellar network and Soroban, which is what allows for that connection that I was talking about between DeFi and Access. We are aiming for Soroban mainnet launch in the first half of 2023. And on the way there, we'll continue to put out Soroban releases roughly once a month and docs and examples alongside the code. So if you're interested, you can read, you can tinker, you can build, or contribute to Soroban right now, today. And you can find out more on soroban.stellar.org. Now, Soroban adds extensibility to the network, which casts the net wide open when it comes to use cases. So truly community-owned savings banks, community crowdfunding and ownership for micro public works projects. And right now, the field is also wide open for enterprising developers and businesses to be first to market and to fill out the ecosystem. So imagine new AMMs, DAOs, smart wallets, dApps, oracles, all kinds of data reporting and exploration tools. These projects are sort of there to be built, and they can not only bring financial access to people without it, but they can also give them control and ownership over the tools themselves. So this is the promise of DeFi plus the reality of access. And so in tandem with Soroban development, efforts to help drive engagement and increase adoption of Soroban were also a big priority this quarter. So at Meridian, we announced a $100 million Soroban adoption fund. And along with it, we launched the first program drawing from that fund, Sorobanathon First Light. Sorobanathon First Light, it was a quick start, small stakes incentive program designed to encourage people to tinker with Soroban and to create content and to provide feedback to guide the continued development of Soroban itself. It rewarded eligible developers for experimenting with smart contracts and for writing code examples, tutorials, and even GitHub issues to capture their experiments. So it launched October 12th with a target of 50 qualified technical submissions. When it closed December 15th, we had 59 qualified technical submissions from 27 different individuals who were awarded a total of 93,600 lumens. Now, given that Soroban is still in preview release, that's actually quite good, right? A lot of early tinkerers got really deep into some bleeding edge code. And you can see the results in the discussions on the Stellar Dev Discord. We had over 1,000 new signups due to Sorobanathon. And the questions there are both deep and technical, and they get really into the weeds. The topics are like contract data storage models and the visibility of contract invocation outputs. So Soroban submissions also included stabs at early utility, so DAO tools, escrow contracts, implementations of things like Dutch auctions, and also some stuff that was just outright fun. A crowd favorite, the 7 Cs protocol, a pirate-themed OHM fork written by Marcus Paulson Luna, which, to quote the README, he built not because anyone should actually build one, but because OHM uses a fair amount of useful DeFi concepts, which can be applied to other more valuable applications. I also just thought coding one would be fun. And that right there is the Soroban spirit. It's useful and it's fun. So we also created another branch of Soroban First Light that called for artists to create NFTs. And we had some really cool ones, and you can check them all out at the Soroban repo on github.stellar.org/Soroban. Now, as I said, this was the first program to begin to distribute the Soroban adoption funds, and it was a small one at that, right? As Soroban continues to evolve, we'll continue to launch new programs, and I don't want to steal any thunder right now by getting into specifics, but if you want to stay up to date, again, check out soroban.stellar.org. I am happy to take your questions on what's next for Soroban during the Q&A, but I'm going to pass it back to Denelle to take us through the next building block. Denelle?
Thank you so much, Justin. Part of the awesomeness of Soroban has been the fact that we've had so much developer engagement there. And so we really want to see that continue. It has been so awesome to see questions debated back and forth between lots of folks in the channels. And it is exactly what we want as an open public network. So thanks to everyone who's done that. And I'm like here for more. So let's start our review of this building block, activating more network participation, with a look at the Enterprise Fund, a venture-style fund for growing the open source Stellar network. In Q4, we made a $1.5 million investment in a Caribbean-based accelerator whose mission is to address global development and governance challenges by leveraging blockchain technology. We have considerable mission alignment with this group, which have yet to announce their fund publicly, so we look forward to sharing more once they do. Throughout the year, we wanted to prioritize building on Stellar via the Enterprise Fund. So that led us to a total of 9 investments in companies focused on building in Africa, Latin America, the Caribbean, North America, and globally. So we invested over 26 million overall in a year that has been really difficult, as I'm sure many of you know, for businesses and startups in our industry to gain that sort of support for their work. So we'll keep this up in 2023, as well as to ensure that sustainable Stellar use cases continue to grow and get that support that they need. Speaking of use cases, December's launch of the Stellar Aid Assist project is probably the most tangible example I can point to in recent memory of blockchain solving a real-world problem today. This work is especially meaningful to all of us at the SDF because it is the cohesion of 3 things we as an organization have always prioritized in the way that we seek to grow the network: delivering real-world utility, serving the most vulnerable, and expanding financial access. So we're going to try to play a video right now of how Stellar Aid Assist works. Let's see if it works.
Humanitarian aid serves as a lifeline to over 100 million displaced people in crisis around the world. Unfortunately, distributing aid to displaced people at scale can be a challenge due to high costs, damaged infrastructure, fraud, and a lack of transparency to ensure aid goes to those who need it. Now, with Stellar Aid Assist, relief organizations can use a first-of-its-kind blockchain solution to deliver aid instantly, transparently, and globally. Stellar Aid Assist leverages the power of Stellar, a proven, decentralized, and open blockchain network to get money into the hands of those who need it quickly and at a low cost. It's fast to deploy and can scale easily to meet a moment of crisis. Here's how it works. Your relief organization can use Stellar Aid Assist's innovative bulk disbursement tool to deliver aid directly to your own pre-approved lists of recipients in the form of digital currencies, like Circle's USD Coin, USDC, a fully reserved dollar digital currency. Recipients can then access their aid directly from their phones using participating digital wallet applications without needing a bank account. Finally, they can choose to hold their digital assets as a safeguard against local currency devaluation, or exchange them for physical cash at one of MoneyGram's hundreds of thousands of participating locations around the world. With Stellar Aid Assist, relief organizations can feel confident their aid will be delivered transparently over the blockchain, instantly at scale, and at a low cost. This means your aid recipients can access their relief funds digitally regardless of where they are. In stable currencies like digital US dollars, all without a bank card or account required. Stellar Aid Assist makes aid accessible for all and enables equitable access to aid. Learn how Stellar can empower your organization or the organization you donate to deliver the future of aid today. Visit stellar.org/aidassist.
So in its first implementation, by the way, I think the video was awesome. I'm so glad it played for you guys. It was piloted by two aid organizations, the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees and the International Rescue Committee, as I mentioned earlier, to deliver urgently needed cash assistance to internally displaced persons in Ukraine. As the video explained, recipients can hold their funds in their wallet or cash out at MoneyGram locations. It's also worth noting that you can use MoneyGram's direct to deposit feature to deposit funds directly into their bank accounts. Without having to go to a physical location if it's not safe for them to do so, as many in Ukraine did. The MoneyGram global cash on and off ramps are foundational to the way that this solution works. We said back in June that the MoneyGram partnership would be a game changer for the utility of crypto, and now you can see what we meant. Interoperability between financial systems, on and off ramps, relentless commitments to improving the way cross-border payments can work for the underserved. These are not the things that typically get the headlines, but solving these last mile problems is some of the most challenging work to do. Our focus there, laying that groundwork in collaboration with partners that saw the value in what we could each bring to the table, is what made Stellar Aid Assist possible. I truly can't say enough about our incredible partners at the UNHCR and IRC, as well as our other partners and all the SDF teams who were responsible for bringing this to life. We're continuing to talk to aid organizations and government agencies that could leverage this for their work. So check out the Stellar Aid Assist page to learn more and get in touch. I just also want to add that the technology that is leveraged in Stellar Aid Assist is really awesome for any kind of bulk disbursement. So I think a lot about payroll or paying gig workers globally. So this is just an awesome tool that can be leveraged in many different ways. I'm going to over to Jordan for the time being, but I'll be back in a bit to share the 2023 roadmap and where we're focusing in on 2023.
All right, thanks, Denelle. Hey everyone, I'm Jordan Edelstein. I'm the CMO here at SDF, and I'll continue working through the rest of this building block. So I'll start with an update on Vibrant, which was the wallet partner for the first implementation of Stellar Aid Assist last month. The aid version of Vibrant dispersed 100,000 USDC to aid recipients in Ukraine, which is amazing. And in terms of overall growth, Vibrant saw installs grow 376% quarter over quarter, with asset balances growing 64%. And as Vibrant moves into 2023, the team is really focused on remittances and foreign worker wage payments as additional use cases that they're working to deliver on. So they've got some exciting updates and upcoming features in the works as well. So Denelle's prior point about the groundwork we've laid over the years in collaboration with the ecosystem is really a critical one. And on that note, I want to highlight the growth of the Anchor network. So as a reminder, something we talk about quite a bit, an Anchor is a trusted bridge between the Stellar network and other payment networks. The anchors connect Stellar to banking rails or payment networks so that all the world's currencies can interoperate on a single platform. And so by providing access to these on and off ramps, anchors give apps and services on Stellar borderless access to financial infrastructure. Now, Stellar's Anchor network is a major differentiator for us. And in 2022, the number of anchors on the network doubled from 30 to 60. And at Meridian, we announced the Stellar Anchor platform, which is an out-of-the-box solution that reduces development time and cost while making a company's services available to a global network of wallets and applications. So it makes it easier than ever to integrate with Stellar, which is huge. It's currently being used by ecosystem companies like Bitso and Red Chipina. You can check out more about the Anchor platform page on stellar.org to get yourself started. Now, GMO Trust is the most recent Anchor and stablecoin issuer to join the Stellar network. In November, they brought to Stellar the world's first regulated yen-backed stablecoin, which is called GYEN, and a US dollar-backed stablecoin called ZUSD. GMO Trust is supervised by the New York DFS and has been granted a charter in the state of New York. And these two regulated stablecoins are fully backed by one-to-one fiat reserves of Japanese yen and US dollars, respectively, and the reserves are audited monthly by an independent accounting firm. Customers can now purchase and redeem Stellar GYEN and ZUSD directly from GMO Trust's platform. And Fireblocks is the first technology provider to add custody support for these two new assets on Stellar for institutions. Okay, this is my favorite slide. This quarter, the SDF marketing and comms team leveraged a really wide range of opportunities to drive awareness and engagement with Stellar. Now, I admit I am biased, but I'm confident in saying that our marketing efforts have never been stronger and more impactful. So I'll just hit a few of them. So in the fall, we executed a built on Stellar social media campaign that put a spotlight on ecosystem companies and the real world problems that they're solving with Stellar. We executed an incredibly successful Meridian conference in Rome. And in December, we orchestrated the launch announcement of Stellar 8 Assist with an integrated campaign that included full page ads in the New York Times and the Financial Times newspaper, paid digital media, social media, and press coverage in both mainstream outlets like Fortune, as well as trade press like Blockworks and Decrypt. So we were very, very busy. Now, pulling off a Meridian that our ecosystem and community would remember was a huge priority for the quarter, but we also made sure we were visible at key industry events, including Money 2020 in Las Vegas, where we had a standing room only private breakfast, and then Denelle spoke on a panel as a part of the larger conference about remittances. And Denelle was also at TechCrunch Disrupt, where she was alongside Alex Holmes, the CEO of MoneyGram, and then as well as the Blockchain Association Policy Summit, as well as other priority policy events. And so continuing the thread on policy, our policy team continued to focus on building SDF's reputation globally as an industry leader advancing financial inclusion through highlighting real-world use cases. We engage with policymakers in Washington, D.C. through briefings and meetings and conferences. And on Capitol Hill and with the Biden administration, SDF met with key officials and their staffs to demonstrate the value of blockchain technologies for consumers, emphasizing the need for legislation to provide guardrails and clarity. We also discussed stablecoin regulation at events like the Crypto Leaders Symposium in London and highlighted Stellar 8 Assist through robust dialogue with 8 organizations and DC audiences. Also worth noting is we became official members of the Wilson Center's Digital Asset Forum, the Center for a New American Securities Crypto and National Security Task Force, and the WEF Crypto Sustainability Coalition. So lastly, I want to give a few updates to what we've done to demand and promote inclusion. And as always, a lot of the things we've covered earlier in this call about the previous building blocks fit in here as well. But a few highlights I would hit: all the policy activity we've done, that the team has done to make sure that policy stakeholders know how blockchain is expanding financial access so that they can craft legislation that actually continues to do so. All the activity that Justin mentioned on Soroban to ensure we're engaging new developers and welcoming input as we build, and the launch of Stellar 8 Assist to support aid organizations with more efficient options for aid disbursement to the most vulnerable. But there are really 2 additional achievements that I also, from the last quarter, that I want to focus on. The first is, Justin and the developer relations team dedicated a ton of time in Q4 to expanding StellarQuest, building out both StellarQuest Learn and StellarQuest Live. Now, as a reminder, StellarQuest Learn is a self-guided course that walks users through classic Stellar operations. And on the other end, StellarQuest Live is a series of live events where developers compete in real time on challenges for XLM rewards and commemorative NFT badges. So the 5th StellarQuest Live took place in Q4, and it was all about encouraging developers to experiment with Soroban. The series garnered record-breaking participation with over 2,000 new developers joining the Quester community. Then on the other side, the Stellar Community Fund, which is one of the oldest of its kind in the blockchain industry, enables developers, startups, and companies to get support and funding based on input from the Stellar community. So it wrapped up its 11th round, which included a built-in startup bootcamp with DFS Lab. And out of 152 submissions, 50 candidates were selected and 21 winners were awarded over 13 million XLM through community input. After all these years, SCF continues to show the power of open source. Anyone can bring their idea to life on a network like Stellar. And in 2022, we saw over 300 applications from more than 2,600 community members around the world who contributed projects focused on remittances, wallet applications, marketplaces, and more. It's just an amazing example of local builders solving local problems with support from a really engaged and supportive community. So happy to dig into this more in the Q&A, but first I will welcome back Denelle to introduce our new roadmap.
All right, so it's that time of year again. New year, new roadmap. 2022 was, I don't know, we could call it tumultuous for the world and for the industry. Some might use harsher words. As we worked on a strategy for the year ahead, we reflected a lot on the path that we've been down and how we stand differentiated. So our strengths as an organization and those of the network have never been clearer. In response to war, we found a way for this technology to help and pioneered an aid product that can improve lives and organizations. In response to volatility, we've stayed focused on the fundamentals of innovation with a keen focus on utility, and we're leading the way towards responsible, truly scalable DeFi, decentralized finance. In response to skepticism, we engaged and advocated with all stakeholders, even our critics. So the conclusion we came to is this: what may once have been perceived as boring is now clearly understood as strength, reliability, consistency, and maturity. So the benefit of being steady and measured is paying off. So going into 2023, we are in a position to show that Stellar is the network that doesn't just survive through crypto winter, it sets the standard on the other side. So to sum up our 2023 roadmap, utility is the growth exponent. So what does that mean? We know what's required for a network to deliver on the promise of equitable access to the global financial system: trusted assets, accessible global on and off ramps, and intuitive products. The sum of these parts is utility. A network cannot drive change if it is not solving real problems, if it is not useful for real users, developers, or businesses. So that is why utility is our core focus for 2023, and one we must lean into with a commitment to urgency and outcomes. So here we go. The 3 building blocks that will organize our work around to take Stellar's utility to the next level. First, we're going to make innovation easy and scalable. Whether it's scaling on Stellar's traditional offering, so classic Stellar, or leveraging a new smart contract standard in DeFi, we need to make it easy to build on the network. This is how we offer surface area for innovation that expands the ecosystem of builders, equipping them with a tech stack that has a vision to scale into mainstream adoption and introduces them to a thriving DeFi ecosystem to support their development. Second, we're going to win over developers. We've already started with this process, but more utility will attract established, trusted institutional players to Stellar. We need to continue to focus on solving problems for these players versus just bringing blockchain to their work. To do that, we need to focus on the broken steps in the current system, highlight them, and show how they can leverage Stellar to help fix them. This work will focus on bringing more top-tier assets to the network, expanding access to the network with global on and off ramps, and really proving our use cases. Finally, we'll focus on utility to build trust. Now, this is because we cannot just build utility. We need to prove it to stakeholders who have a say in the future of this technology. This will require engagement with policymakers and influencers to make sure SDF and Stellar are seen as credible and reliable as the future of blockchain regulation is decided. This work will also require SDF to be a clear voice in the broader public conversation to demonstrate to businesses, developers, and other stakeholders that this technology has real world value. So that's our new roadmap, and it will guide us in our day-to-day, leading us to the outcomes we want to achieve in 2023 that move the needle on utility. So you can read more on our roadmap landing page after this call. It'll be up. And now I'm going to hand it over to either Caroline or Carolyn for the Q&A. I'm not sure because we had to switch things up a bit when we had that glitch mid-call.
Thanks, Denelle. I am back to take your questions for the team. So as a reminder, please submit any questions into the Zoom Q&A in the toolbar, and we'll get to as many as we can. So first, Justin, maybe you could take this one. related to Soroban. Could you share more details on the interoperability of Soroban with Stellar assets?
Yeah, sure. That's a pretty technical question. And I'll say that probably the best way to find an answer is just go to the Soroban docs, which are at soroban.stellar.org/docs, and just search for Stellar Asset Contract. Essentially, there is now a standard contract, standard token interface called the Stellar Asset Contract, which sort of implements something that's very similar to ERC20 token standards that are widely used on Ethereum. And it is how basically classic Stellar assets can live in Soroban. The classic assets include sort of the both lumens and other assets that have trust lines. And in this case, there's the issuer of the asset is the administrator of the deployed contract. So without getting too deep into the actual data structures and invocations, I guess I would just say that that's sort of it at a high level. There's a standard interface, and you can read all the details at soroban.stellar.org/docs.
Thanks, Justin. So reminder, visit the docs for more information if you have any questions related to Soroban. And Denelle, maybe you can take this next one. How much has the Stellar MoneyGram product been used so far, and do you expect it to continue to grow in 2023?
Well, I sure hope so. I mean, this product is, I think, it's not just MoneyGram in terms of the on and off ramps from a cash to crypto standpoint. We have lots of on and off ramps. This one is a global on and off ramp, though, which makes it so that it is much easier to integrate with and much more streamlined for wallets to be able to leverage globally. So there are other points of differentiation for lots of other on and off ramps. Those anchors are things we're going to continue to focus on, as we said, and we doubled this year, but we're going to focus on bringing more of those to the network. With respect to MoneyGram, I see this, the Stellar Aid Assist, and also, as I mentioned, like payroll disbursement, there's lots of huge opportunity to be able to leverage this. Right now, we have 2 wallets that are live, 1 wallet that's in like pre-live stage, and 3 that are like right there almost coming out. I'll be honest and tell you, I want this to be faster. I want wallets to be able to get on to this integration much more quickly. And I think we've developed tools to be able to make that happen faster. So part of it is you have to be integrated with the Stellar network, and then you have to integrate separately with just the tool for the MoneyGram, which is not a lot of effort, but sometimes that first leg of new wallets to the network, it takes them a bit of time. So the growth path that I see is really this year we'll have volume. I think it is getting more of these wallets on there. I love the idea of getting local wallets. And so I think we have like 35 wallets in the queue, maybe even more now, because that number might be outdated. And we just need to get them all live and then focus on the volume and focus on just really growing that. And also focusing on our other anchors and our other on and off ramps that are really relevant locally to lots of wallet providers as well. But yeah, I want this to grow. I see it growing. I see 2023 as our year for volume.
Awesome. Yeah, there was another question related to how we see the collaboration with MoneyGram growing. And I think Denelle saw that and also just addressed that as well. So great. Thanks, Denelle. Okay, Justin, maybe you want to take this one. You mentioned that your initial goal for Sorobanathon participation was 50 participants. Do you have some numbers on where you want to be by the time Soroban launches on mainnet? Things like number of developers, projects, any other metrics we're looking at?
That's a really great question. And I think, first of all, I would love to hear any ideas that anyone in the ecosystem has about what the correct metrics are to look at. Because I do think that, this is an emerging ecosystem and a new technology. And for sure, it is interesting to hear what you think success looks like. I think that can help us guide, sort of shape and guide our vision. For me, the sort of rough number that I want to see is about 5x, like 5x what we have in the Soroban ecosystem by the time it launches. And specifically, that means to me about 5 times the number of projects, 5 times the number of open source contributors, and about 5 times the number of applications or participation in the various incentive programs that we plan to launch. And that's sort of the quantitative answer. But the qualitative answer, I think, is that what I really want to see by the time that we get to mainnet launch is sort of a minimum viable ecosystem of projects that exist that are built on Soroban. And I think you could kind of imagine what that would look like. If we sort of could fill out the tools for governance and services for understanding what's happening on chain and services that make the chain functional, education and community, as well as things that people can do with assets. So single asset collateralized lending, that kind of thing. I would like to see one of each of the key sort of tools and DeFi protocols and dApps exist so that we're launching Soroban on mainnet to a live ecosystem. And that's what we're going to be trying to do through like Soroban adoption programs that we will be like leaning hard into starting early this year.
That's great. Okay, so looking at it from a very holistic lens, many different angles. Awesome. Okay, Jordan, maybe you could take this one. Can you tell us more about the announcement that Jason is joining a CFTC advisory group? Very exciting.
Yeah, sure. Jason Chapal, our COO, was selected to be a member of this Global Markets Advisory Committee. We're one of only actually 4 crypto organizations selected among the 40 participants. So it's a great opportunity for us to make sure that the blockchain point of view is represented in those conversations. The purpose of that committee is just to advise and help formulate policy proposals for the CFTC. And so, as I talked about, I mean, the work of the policy team in general is kind of getting us in on these conversations so we can help inform the policy that we know everyone knows needs to come as those guardrails are defined. And so it's a great opportunity for us to represent the industry and obviously represent what we think makes sense from our perspective. And so that just got announced, I think a couple of weeks ago, and it's great for Jason to be able to be in those conversations.
Thanks, Jordan. Okay, we got another one that I can answer. Do you guys share this recording anywhere? Yes, there will be a blog on the SDF website up by the end of the day, which will have the recording of this webinar, as well as a link to the full quarterly report and a recap. So definitely check that out later today. Danelle, maybe you can answer this one. Why did SDF go to Davos this year, and how was the trip?
Yeah, it's a question that it's so interesting. So Davos is a really interesting place to go from the standpoint if you want to engage in policy and engage with regulators globally, and also just really bring some issues to the forefront. So there's a lot of criticism, I think, in the space for engaging in, sometimes engaging in with political discourse as well as with the World Economic Forum. I'll tell you that this year for us, what our main focus was really talking about Stellar Aid Assist and talking about the work that we did with the UNHCR and the IRC in terms of the work in December and getting aid into the hands of the most vulnerable populations in Ukraine. And so we spent our time explaining, first of all, there's 2 reasons to do this. Number one, it is really important to demonstrate truly valuable use cases for blockchain and crypto right now. It is one of the biggest challenges that we've spent so much of our time as an industry focused on trading use cases and had a lot of criticism from governments and from regulators and frankly from even users that we haven't really demonstrated the true value of what blockchain has to offer. The truth is, I feel like we've been here the whole time trying to do that. And with this Stellar Aid Assist project, it really demonstrated like this is what it can be used for as another rail for an aid organization or for a company to be able to disperse really important aid or really important money into different countries, into different to a mass number of individuals. So we spent a ton of time at Davos, really meeting with lots of aid organizations, talking to government agencies about how they can leverage this tool. It was really productive, I think. And also we spent time really trying to share the value of what blockchain has. And that's really important in a time when there's been very big challenges in the industry around the blowups that we've had over in 2022 and concern and criticism about really what is the value of blockchain. We're showing it, and that's important for us to be able to articulate it. So it was awesome. It was a ton of work. And I think it was well worth the trip, well worth the effort. And the team just did a great job making it really successful for the SDF, frankly, and for blockchain holistically.
Thanks, Danelle. Okay, well, we are at time, but I'm going to take one more question. And this one will go to Jordan, our CMO. Jordan, where can we find Stellar at events in 2023?
Yeah, we're going to be busy. So obviously, Danelle just talked about Davos. I think the next big one for us will be at the European Blockchain Convention. Justin is actually going to make the trip over to Barcelona. We've got a mix, I would say, across certainly within the first part of the year, and even we've got planning in the works for the second part of the year across kind of blockchain, crypto conferences, fintech conferences, policy conferences. So Paris Blockchain Week at the end of March, followed by Consensus in Austin at the end of April. We're excited to have big presences there. And in between, there's a DC Blockchain Summit that we'll be at. And then in the second part of the year, I mean, obviously Money 2020 is a good one for us. I think what we're seeing overall is, last year, the event and conference scene in the blockchain industry was pretty bonkers. I think it's settling back down this year. And so I think there'll be a quality over quantity approach. I think where we're going to end up is we'll have kind of bigger presences of the ones we really kind of go after. Mainnet is another one in September, obviously, that we'll focus on. And then, also as for Stellar Aid Assist, as we get into kind of more aid-based, the aid kind of use case, there's an opportunity for us to have a presence at those type of events as well, just to talk about Stellar Aid Assist. So it'll be an active year for us on the event front. But I think in the first part of the year, certainly Paris Blockchain and Consensus are kind of the biggies for us.
Thanks, Jordan. And big thanks to Justin, Jordan, and Denelle for being here to share these updates with us. Thanks to everyone for joining. So remember to check out the blog recap, which will be posted by the end of the day. We'll also share that on social. So if you don't follow us on social, be sure to do that. It's at Stellar.org on Twitter. And you can also see all of our quarterly content on our quarterly reports page on our website anytime. So thanks for joining us, and we will see you next quarter. Thanks, everyone.